Hey everyone, I've had people who want to see my application process up close. So I am going to do my application and kind of talk through it just a little bit. So first of all, I did prep. Prep is only about 5 minutes, but it will make a world of difference in your application. Prep, and when I talk about prep, I mean cleaning your nail beds and opening your nail beds. And what I mean by that is cleaning, the cleaning part of it, is making sure that all the oils and the dirt and everything is off of your nails. So I use a degreaser like Dawn dish soap to make sure that, and I scrub them really well to make sure that there is oil and dirt and everything that is taken off. So I make sure that they are nice and clean. Then I make sure that my nail beds are open. And what I mean by open, that means that I'm pushing my cuticles out of the way. I really like to use our metal spoon pusher from our deluxe application kit, and I use that to make sure that the cuticles are pushed out of the way. They're out of the way, and that includes the hidden cuticle, which is kind of like a skin that is right in front of your cuticle. I make sure that that is back really well. It's especially prevalent in children, and so I want to make sure that all of that is back, because I don't want that to be in the way. I need to make sure that my nail beds are open so that my wraps are only adhering to the actual nail bed and not onto my hidden cuticle or my skin. So I want to make sure that it's open. So I am making sure I have an open slate, an open plate, an open canvas to be able to apply my wraps. Okay, so that's prep. It's super easy and it doesn't take very long, but it is really, really important. So when it comes to applying, I grab my sheet, and luckily they are clear, so you can actually see like which size would fit which nail. So this one right here fits my ring finger, and I've already cut it in half. So I cut it in half, and then I am going to grab it. I am actually going to be using my fingers. I made sure that my fingers were nice and clean, and I am only touching the part of the wrap that is not going to be on my nail. If you are worried at all about getting the oils from your fingers onto the wraps, because you don't want oils on the adhesive, so if you are worried about that, I recommend using an orange stick to lift it and to, use the orange stick to kind of do everything that you need to do with, okay? So I take it and I'm gonna put it in front of the heat. I recommend our heaters over a hair dryer, but you can use a hair dryer. Our heaters are awesome. Obviously it's hands-free. I can use both hands, and it gives off the right amount of consistent heat, and if you notice, it's not very loud and doesn't blow very hard. So I really, really, really recommend the heater. Every single person I have talked to that has gotten the heater said they will never go back to a hair dryer, although a hair dryer does work. The heater is best. So I have the right tools for applying it. So I'm going to use my heater, and I'm going to put it in front of the heater for just a couple seconds. So I am going to do that until the wrap looks like it either kind of curled or it looks like it's getting flexible. Usually once you see that, it's kind of getting flexible. So I did that. And next, I am going to put the wrap right there at the base of my nail bed. I'm going to put just the end of my wrap at the base of my nail bed. Oops, let me get the other hand off of it. It's sticking to my other hand. Okay, so I just put it there at the base, right in front of the cuticle, if you can see. And I don't have it on the cuticle, I don't have it on the skin. It is right in front of the cuticle. And I'm going to do what is called the 1, 2, 3 method. I'm going to heat it just a little bit, and I'm going to go down the middle for step 1. I'm going from cuticle to tip, just pressing down from cuticle to tip. Okay, that was 1. I'm going to put it in front of the heat just for a little bit again, and I'm going to do step 2, which is going from cuticle to tip. But if you notice, I'm kind of going out in a V. So when I'm pushing down, I'm kind of going off to the side at the same time, making sure that I am not getting any ripples or bubbles, okay? So then I put it in front of the heat real quick for step 3, which is on the other side doing the same thing, but again, I'm going off in like a V shape. So I am going from cuticle to tip, but V. So I went down the middle for step 1, step 2, V, step 3, V, okay? Then I'm going to put it in front of the heat real quick for just one of my tips, which is pulling, once it's flexible, so I'll have to heat it again, but once it's flexible, so when you put it in front of the heater, it kind of makes it flexible for a second or two. Once it's flexible, I'm actually going to pull this kind of down but inward. Does that make sense? So I put it in front of the heat, it's flexible. I'm going to pull it down and inward. And what that is doing for me is it is helping to make sure I don't have any ripples right there on the end or on the side there. And I'm making sure that it is good on the tip too, on that corner. And I put it back to do the other side, pulling down and in. So almost like doing that without actually doing that. So I'm pulling down and inward, and then I can pull in the middle, also pulling down. Okay, so I make sure that is done. All right, so next what I'm going to do is I can cut off the excess there, so it's not too long. And I'm going to use a file. I'm going to use a file going in a downward motion, not at an angle like that, or an angle like that, or an angle like that. I'm doing it straight down at a straight angle that way. Okay, and I'm only going downward. I'm not going up and down. I want to make sure that I'm going in a downward motion. And you want to make sure that you're getting these corners as well. A lot of people forget about those corners, or they just kind of overlook them. You want to make sure that this corner and this corner are not being overlooked when you use the nail clippers or the nail file. You want to make sure that you are also filing those corners. You do not want any of the wrap to hang off of the tips, because even if it was just a little corner and it was hanging off just a little bit, it can get caught on something, and once it gets caught, that it can lift. It can pull it up. So you want to make sure that none of it is past the tips. Okay, so if you notice that there, none of it is past the tips. So now I like to do what's called a t-shirt test. I just rub my nail on the t-shirt. If it feels rough or coarse at all, then you need to buff it and make it smooth. And how I do that is you can use a glass file, which is also in our deluxe kit, and you can go in a downward motion. Now this time I'm going to do it at a slight angle, and I'm going to go in a downward motion to make sure that it smooths down and makes that grain of the file smaller. A normal file causes there to be kind of like a larger grain, and so I'm smoothing it down to make it a smaller grain. If you don't have a glass file, then you could use a buffer. It'll take a little bit longer, but a buffer would also work. Again, this would at a slight angle, and I'm going in downward motion. Even if I use the glass file though, I like to always follow up with the buffer to make sure that it is nice and smooth. So then I'm going to run it on my t-shirt, and it's perfect. I felt no catching, no roughness, no nothing. So it is on very well. Now what I